5 children outside their neighbor's house in the dead of night was the first sign that something sinister was afoot in the quiet farming district of Crawl in Riversdale, St. Catherine on Tuesday. Neighbors soon learned that the 5 siblings, all boys between the ages of 6 months and 14 years, had been sent out of their house by gunmen who had forced their way inside and taken out their mother, 45-year-old Curran Higgins McGrath, grandmother, Dorothy Higgins, the helper, 38-year-old Diane Nicola Johnson of Thumbs Open Fellowship, Portland, and her spouse, known only as Kevin. Police said the brutal taking out was committed about 2:15 a.m. by 3 men, all dressed in dark clothing, wearing masks and armed with handguns. According to Keresia Morris, the Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Northeast, one of the gunmen placed the baby in his stroller and told the other children to pack food and clothes and leave the house. Oh boy. Morrison said the victims were known to the residents as hard-working people. It's a peaceful constituency. You see, the humble people, small farmers, shopkeepers, they go about their daily course of life. So to hear the concerns, the cries, and the grief, it is unbearable. And as their member of parliament, they are looking to me for answers, for comfort. So what I can commit to is to work closely with the police as they go about finding who the perpetrators are, and very importantly, that this does not become a feature of an otherwise peaceful community, Morrison said. As news of the taken out started to spread, residents gathered on the road near the house looking on in disbelief. One resident who described the family as very quiet said that he is shocked that something like this happened in the community. It's rough because I never expected this. Crime turned up everywhere, the man stated. Added that he has lived in the community for more than 20 years and this was the first time he had seen something like this. A 54-year-old woman said the slain family concerned themselves mostly with farming and taking their children to school. However, the grandmother Dorothy was more jovial and sociable and would readily participate in various church activities. I feel very overwhelmed because we never see anything like this. I've been here from I was born, the distraught woman said. A relative of the victims said he was in shock and was really worried about the children. Senior Superintendent of Police Stephanie Lindsay, while lamenting the tragedy, thanked God that the children had not been harmed. They are in police custody and they are currently working now to find relatives to take custody of the children, she said. You know what would be interesting though, like any relative that take custody of these children, at least the state would help like with financing them school wise and so on until them reach 18, That would be nice. Anyway, as I continue, Lindsay, who heads the constabulary net communications arm, said at the time that the police had no leads as to the motives, as the investigations were still in early stages. They are picking bits and pieces of information from whoever they can talk to, and from what our intelligence is telling us, but still we don't know. So they are following some lines of inquiries and looking at everything they are getting now to see if we can be closer to what led to this attack and then who are the persons responsible, Lindy stated. She also revealed that before the attack, the family was in mourning as a male member had died suddenly last Friday. Lindsay said a complete profile for him would to be done now that his family members had been murdered. Additionally, a post-mortem is to be done to confirm the real cause of death. With a number of theories circulating as to the motive for Tuesday's murders, Lindsay urged anyone with information to contact the Riversdale Police Station, the Panishtown Police Station, Crime Stop, or 311, or the Jamaica Constabulary Force Anonymous tip line 811. Further update on the killing of the four family members is stating that the there's a dispute involving Mistress McGrath and the family of her recently deceased husband. It is understood that Mistress McGrath, who returned to the island on Monday after receiving news of her husband's death, had fallen out with the husband's family. At the end of the day, we are in a sad state as to nobody is able to communicate anymore that a dispute could have caused such a mass taking out of a family of four. In other news, former district constable and murdered convict 71-year-old Linton Berry, who was released on June 16 after serving 31 years in prison, has passed. He had been diagnosed with throat cancer. Attorney-at-law Zara Lewis, who was representing Berry in various civil suits against the government, said the former district constable had been diagnosed with throat cancer not long after being released from prison. He was sick, but he had refused to die in prison. He promised me that he would come out, Lewis said. It was diagnosed until he came out of prison. He realized coming out of prison that he had a throat cancer and he was trying to get treatment both here and overseas, Lewis added. Berry came to national attention in 1987 when he was arrested and charged with the murder of his former lover, 36-year-old Paulette Zadie. Berry had been looking forward to spending quality time with close family members and friends. Lewis hailed Berry for the sterling role he played in helping to make life easier for other inmates. He was one of the prisoners working to create records of people who were incarcerated with mental health issues. He was also one of the orderlies who took care of people with mental illness because of his experience as a police officer. He was a good record keeper and he was utilized by prison officials for that purpose. He said upon his release, Berry had apologized to the relatives of the deceased, but he said then that he maintained his innocence to the end. Barry claimed that the deceased Paulette Zadie grabbed his firearm and it went off, accidentally hitting her. Berry had been involved in ongoing legal battles in the Supreme Court with the prison authorities over poor treatment. What was outstanding about his life was that, notwithstanding the tragic circumstances that brought him to prison, he fought for the accused man's right to disclosure. As a result of the work that Berry did, the defense has a right to full and complete disclosure from the prosecution. He was a man who fought. He not only fought for himself but the wider Jamaica, and they have much to be grateful for from him, Lewis said. Berry is survived by his son and other relatives. So here is a police officer who had allegedly killed his lover and went to prison. But while he was in there, he utilizes his time to help out in the prison community by helping the mental health people and basically to be a motivation to other prisoners that come in there to change their life. I remember my grandmother always have this saying that she says, it's not how hard you fall, it's how well you rise. Because based on the circumstances that he went to prison for, on his release, he came out with glowing colors and being respected for his input and the difference that he made in the prison system.